Hey everyone, today we are going to be simplifying fractions using the greatest common factor. So the first lesson we did this year was being able to write lists of factors. Then we used those lists of factors to find the greatest common factor between two or more numbers. And now we're going to use the idea of the greatest common factor to simplify fractions. And we use the greatest common factor to get us from the original fraction to the simplified fraction in one step. So you can see I have this example broken down into 3 steps. Step 1, we're going to find the greatest common factor. And I'm going to use this 6 on top because that's the smallest number. So here's my 6. 6 is 1 times 6 and 2 times 3. And then I'm going to start with the largest factor in that list. So I'm going to start with 6, and 6 does go into 24. 6 times 4 is 24. So my greatest common factor is 6. Now, when we did greatest common factor, this is where we stopped. Now, we're going to go on to step 2, and it says divide the numerator and the denominator by the GCF. So I've got my original fraction, and then I've got this division symbol, and then I'm actually going to divide both the top and the bottom by the greatest common factor. Now you can see this little 1 that's outlined around this second fraction. That's because whatever I put in that second space has to equal 1 in order for the equivalent fractions to be true. So I'm going to have my greatest common factor on both the top and the bottom, and then I'm going to work my way straight across the top, straight across the bottom to simplify. So 6 divided by 6 is 1. 24 divided by 6 is 4. So 6 over 24 is the same as 1/4. And now today, this is our final answer. So that simplified fraction is our final answer. So the greatest common factor just helps us get to that simplified fraction. So in this particular example, it was a pretty small number on top, and then that very first factor that we tried is the one that worked. So now in part B, we're going to work with a little bit bigger numbers, and then that first factor is not going to work. So I'm going to start with 42, again the smaller number. So 1 times 42. 42 is even, so 2 times 21. 3 times 14. And 6 times 7. I know that I came up with that list of factors pretty quickly, but I've done this example several times, and I've done the factoring of this number several times, so I know that 1, 2, 3, and 6 all work. If you are ever not sure about a number, please check your multiplication chart. So now I'm going to go through starting with my largest factor. Does 42 go into 56? No. Does 21 go into 56? No. Does 14 go into 56? Yes. 14 times 4 is 56. So my greatest common factor is 14. So then step 2 again says divide the numerator and the denominator by the greatest common factor. So here is my original fraction, 42 over 56. I'm going to have a division symbol, and then I'm going to put 14 on both the top and the bottom. And then I'm going to divide straight across. So 42 divided by 14 is 3. 56 divided by 14 is 4. And that 3/4 is now my new final answer. That's the one that I want. So I've got a couple more examples down here at the bottom that we'll go through. So 14 over 35, I'm going to start with 14. 14 is 1 times 14 and 2 times 7. 14 does not go into 35. And then 7 does. So 7 times 5 is 35. That means my GCF is 7. And now I'm going to go back up to my original fraction, and I'm going to do my division symbol because I'm going to simplify by dividing by 7 over 7. The same thing on top as there is on the bottom. Okay, whatever you do to the top, you also have to do the exact same thing to the bottom. So 14 divided by 7 is 2, and 35 divided by 7 is 5. So 2 over 5. In the next one, I'm going to start with 1 times 7. Oops. I'm actually going to start with 7, and the factors are 1 times 7. And 7 does not go into 18, so my greatest common factor is 1. If my greatest common factor is 1, the fraction is not going to change. So 7 over 18. I'm still going to follow the same process. Divided by 1 over 1 is equal to 7 over 18. For part E, I'm going to start with 20. So 1 times 20, 2 times 10, 3 doesn't work, and then 4 times 5. 20 does not go into 30, but 10 does. So I'm going to do divided by 10 over 10, and I get 2 over 3. And that's my final answer. There are ways to simplify fractions without using the greatest common factor. You can just use a common factor. It just might take you multiple steps. In this situation, we're focusing on greatest common factor because we want that to happen in one step versus several steps. Okay, the faster we can get somewhere, the less likely we are to make a mistake. Okay, so first you're going to find the greatest common factor. You're going to divide both the top and the bottom by the greatest common factor, and then write your simplified fraction. Give me that cloud answer when you're all done.